The Patriots 8-9 last year. Tough loss to the Las Vegas Raiders on that crazy lateral play. Brought them below 500 for the season. There, they have a 7.5 win odds here in 2023. I think that's achievable for them. I think 8-9 was disappointing for them last year. I think most people thought that. I'm just surprised they had 8 wins based on the way their offense was. They were 22nd in rushing attempts, 24th in rushing yards,
Their
22nd in
defense
passing
was
attempts.
fantastic.
Yeah, and 20th in passing yards. So they were bottom third amongst everything. But they're pretty even across the board. They're a balanced offense, both in passing and rushing, which is very good. And that's how Belichick's always done it. Mac Jones leading the helm again here on the depth chart. He's going QB 28. Last year he finished at QB 23. After a good rookie campaign, he came back with a dud at 2,900 yards and 14 touchdowns. I mean, Zappy came in and played better at times than he did. He even threw 11 picks. I think he got a little bit too much in his head, but I also don't think he had enough weapons around him and healthy weapons around him to really be effective as well. He's got some changes in the wide receiver core this year, but let's be honest.
He's got an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, you got an actual. That's what I was about to say. You actually have an offensive coordinator, and it's somebody who in 2011 was a Super Bowl contending offensive coordinator. If it wasn't for the New York Giants, they would have won the Super Bowl. So to me, Mac Jones has an opportunity to bounce back this year. He's not a guy that I'm drafting, but he's one of those guys that if I'm drafting later on and I punt this position, I'm going to probably pair him with somebody else as an opportunity just to get a second. Because like if you go with Matt Stafford or Derek Carr and those guys start to dud, like your only other opportunity is to try and go for a rookie, or you go for Mac Jones late, or you go for one of these other guys. I've passed on this guy in all those opportunities in those drafts 9 out of 9 times. And if you gave me a 10th time, I'm probably still going to pass on him again. I'd rather take the upside of Kyler Murray. I'd rather take the upside of Bryce Young. I'd rather take the upside of these other guys that are falling further than him or down around his QB range because he just doesn't wow me and have the upside that those other guys have.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to spend a whole ton of time on this, but we did this in our roundtable episode. I brought this question up, like who the quarterbacks that have the veteran quarterbacks that have the most to prove this year. And now Mac Jones entering his third season. He was a first round pick for the New England Patriots, and I think he has a lot to prove this year. I get it. Like his rookie year, he made the Pro Bowl because people backed out and other guys made the playoffs and made runs, but. The second year, he completely dudded out, was benched last year for Zappy, got the starting role back. I think he has a lot to prove this year as to how efficient of a quarterback is he going to be. Listen, like they replaced his number one wide receiver with Juju Smith-Schuster. Like they didn't really give him a lot of help. Devontae Parker is still he might miss the entire season because of an injury, a nagging hamstring injury or something.
Like every other season.
They have some unique weapons here. Like I think that they're a young team, and what the strength of this team is not offense, it's defense.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, like I'm probably avoiding the Patriots for anyone outside of Ramondre Stevenson and Gesicki or Hunter Henry. Like as a late guy tight end. Like I would say you can take a late round sleeper on Tyquan Thornton. And I think I want to bring this up from the quarterback position. There's an interesting thing to keep in mind. I want people to keep an ear out for it is Malik Cunningham. I think that you saw in the preseason week 1, and I know it's preseason, guys, and there's overreaction constantly. This is not an overreaction. He played wide receiver in the first half of the game. Came in and played quarterback the second half of the game. I think he's a really interesting player, and I think Belichick and Bill O'Brien have ways to incorporate interesting players into their offense. And if anything happened with Mac Jones, I think this is someone that they can go to and have some different sets and different looks for. So just want to keep that in mind moving forward. We can move into the running backs because I don't think there's much more to say about the quarterback position here.
No, the only thing I'll say about Mac Jones is if you're looking to get a quarterback late or a second quarterback off the board, he's right sitting there around Tannehill, Garoppolo, and a guy that I'd rather take a chance on more than him because the upside's there, and that's Sam Howell. I'd rather go with someone like Sam Howell or Garoppolo. Even Tannehill could finish up with similar numbers to Mac Jones, but he's finished higher in his career. So
I like the weapons on every one of those other teams better than I like the weapons in the
New England. Ramondre Stevenson is the RB12 off the board. He finished RB14 last year. He's 25th overall. He had 1,000 yards on 210 carries, had a 4.9 average, so he's stellar on the ground. Only 5 touchdowns, however. He did catch 69 balls on 88 targets for 421 yards. To me, Ramondre Stevenson is a guy that if they don't add another back to this backfield, and I know they've been bringing people in and talking to him, if they don't add a back to this backfield, that is probably the best value pick in round 2. Because he should be a early round 2, end of round 1 possible pick based on the volume he's going to get and the way he runs the ball. Except you're literally getting him at the 2-3 turn.
Yeah, he's the Josh Jacobs of last year if they bring no one else in.
Correct.
Like in all honesty, outside of Dalvin Cook, if they bring in Zeke or Leonard Fournette, fine. Like those guys are. There's no disrespect to them, but those guys are washed. All right, like they're not going to come in there and be the bell cow backs anymore. And Stevenson earned that role. And they're probably bringing in a veteran for a change of pace. But Stevenson would have been higher last year. He would have been a top 10 guy if Damian Harris wasn't partially in the season and stealing touchdowns away. The touchdowns really brought him down, the 5 rushing touchdowns, but we saw him involved a lot into the run game, obviously. And like we talked about with Mac Jones, like this is a well-balanced offense. Ramondre Stevenson's going to be the lifeblood of this offense. He's involved with both the rushing game and the receiving game. He is going far beyond or far below what his talent is and what the volume is, like you said. Because with no Damian Harris and if they don't bring in another veteran, he's going to command 300 touches this year.
Yeah.
And he can produce. Like this is not a terrible offensive line. They're going to probably try to run the football and play good defense to stay in games with the rest of this division. Like this is a stacked division.
Where he's going at running back 12, in my opinion, there's only 2 running backs that are going ahead of him right now, according to ADP, that should be going after him, and that's Najee Harris and Travis Etienne Jr. Like those 2 guys, I think should be drafted after Ramondre Stevenson. There's no
Bijan.
Reason, and you're talking about Bijan, you threw his name in there. I think Bijan's still going to get massive volume on that team. I think we both agree he's going too high where he is, but I still think he should be neck and neck with Ramondre, Taylor, Josh Jacobs, and that's if Jacobs and Taylor do play. I could argue that Ramondre Stevenson could be somebody that could be more successful than Tony Pollard too as well. After that, you've got your top guys, but I definitely think Najee, Etienne. So if you're in your drafts, if you're coming down there and Najee, Etienne, and Stevenson are looking you in the face and you're going to be going off ADP, you're going to get somebody who may disappoint you. Like Ramondre's in a position to only like actually go above and beyond like what he should be doing. I know Najee Harris has been top 12 2 seasons in a row, and he's going as RB10 now. I just don't see he's not as efficient as Ramondre Stevenson. At 4.9 yards per carry, like this guy, if you give him, I think I said that he had 210 carries, give him 50 more carries. Just give him 50 more carries.
Yeah, and he still had 60-plus receptions, 62 receptions on the year.
Yeah, I think that's a number that could go down. But listen, I'm okay with if that goes down.
Like Ty Montgomery?
No, I'm just saying they may not go out of the backfield as much. I mean, I'm saying if you're going to say like there's something that's going to change negatively for Ramondre this season, it's going to be maybe his receptions, maybe. But I'm saying I think his rushing is going to go up because you don't really have a true back behind him anymore, and he's going to have to rest at some point too. Like if you want to give him 50 to 60 more carries on a season, he's not going to stay in there for every single possibility. But yeah, I mean, if nothing else changes but his rushing going up, this guy is destined for a top 7 finish easily.
Listen, he had 6 yards per catch last season. His average average yards per target was just under 5. He's heavily used. He's a dump down. He's a really good receiving back.
That's equivalent to Saquon Barkley's usage at the backfield.
I really don't see a scenario unless they bring in Dalvin Cook where his usage in anything goes down. I think his touchdown numbers go up. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. It's going to go up from there. His volume is going to go up in the rushing game. His receiving game is still going to be there. They're going to need to throw the ball. And if they're down late in games because they're coming from behind, he's the guy that's in there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying if there's a category where I could see a change, it could be that. Because if they increase his rushing volume, he may not be in there on every single passing down after that. That's all.
I mean, and to be completely honest, it's not the Patriot way. To bring in a veteran running back. It hasn't been since Corey Dillon where they really have brought in a guy in.
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, but they look at what LeGarrette Blount was used as a goal line guy. He wasn't the every down. They just
correct.
Had the next.
You just don't want them to bring in Zeke. You just don't want them to bring in Zeke because then that's that scenario again where he's going to be a Damian Harris, a LeGarrette Blount, a goal line guy. Obviously they're not going to bring in somebody that's going to be the bell cow. But the fear you have with Zeke is he snatches goal line touchdowns. The fear with Dalvin Cook is they split backfield. Maybe not 50-50, but at least he'll have 40%.
My point with that is that even LeGarrette Blount, when they brought him in, was not very expensive. Corey Dillon is probably the last high-priced free agent running back that they brought in that paid a lot of money. So I just don't see him, Zeke. The whole reason these guys, and with Zeke and Dalvin are free agents, is because they want to take a pay cut, and the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are going to pay them what they weren't making. What they wanted to make in their respective teams. So I just don't see one of those guys going. I think the person that more likely will end up there is Leonard Fournette, who I think that. Again, he can be that kind of goal line back, but again, I don't see him eating into Stevenson's volume.
Yeah,
and the amount of 20 yards, 20+ yard plays that Stevenson had was top 10 in the league in terms of the running back position. So I see that going. His touchdown numbers going up just based on that because he does have explosive ability.
Well, here's my only thought process in these guys that they're signing. I know teams are talking to people and everything like that. My gut feeling is I don't think any of these free agent running backs get signed by anybody. I think these are all going to be acquisitions in season, whether it be an injury or whether it be a playoff push situation. I think Dalvin's the only one and we talked about this a little offline, that could possibly re-sign somewhere because he still can go back to somewhere like Minnesota. But I feel like Minnesota's already on their track without him, and why go back to him? And to me, I don't see a team needing to pay for that. If Dalvin doesn't sign with the Jets or Miami, he's going to want to go to a team that's going to win. And then Zeke is somebody, again, is another position that nobody's going to draft him for that price tag or going to sign him for that price tag, but he's going to have value. He's going to sneak onto somebody's roster before the end of the season. I just don't see this happening before that because we're in training camp now. I don't see anything major happening before the end of the season. Like, unless we get a training camp injury is what I'm saying. Like, I think right now you're seeing what these teams are going to be, and you got to take it for what it's worth. And for Mondre is where he is today in week 1, this guy's sky's the limit. So let's talk about the receiver core, because this has been kind of a carousel for the Patriots over the past couple of years since Edelman has departed. Juju Smith-Schuster is now the pseudo wide receiver 1 for this team. He's going 109th overall, wide receiver 47. So huge value on a guy who's a number 1 for a team, but it's for a reason. Last year, he was wide receiver 39. He had 933 yards on 73 catches in Kansas City and 3 touchdowns. he did have a great yard per catch. It jumped up from 2 seasons back-to-back in Pittsburgh of 6 to 11. He doubled his yards per catch pretty quickly. So if he can bring that to the Patriots, I think his targets go up and receptions go up to over 100 just because of volume play. There's nobody else there where, he doesn't have Travis Kelce vying for massive targets. He doesn't have these other, Pat Mahomes throwing to other guys, and Jerick McKinnon as much out the backfield. I think he has a chance, but again, you're not paying much for him. You're not giving up the world to take a chance on Juju Smith-Schuster. Devontae Parker is going wide receiver 83, so literally double down on how late you're going to get a receiver in Parker. And then you got Tyquan Thornton, 98. Then you got Bourne and Kayshon Boutte that are both late round. You can pretty much get them for free or off waivers early on. So Chris was right earlier when he talked about Mac Jones not getting the help he really needed. Juju, yes, almost had 1,000 yards last year, but he did it with Pat Mahomes in a team that threw the ball as much as they did. It's going to be difficult for Juju to do that again in the division they're in, number one, because he's got to play the Jets twice, the Bills twice, and Miami twice.
So these are the corners he has to face in 6 games this year. Sauce Gardner in 2, Xavier Howard in 2, Tre'Davious White in 2. Good luck. Good luck to you, Juju. Good luck. Because the thing about these corners, too, they're not just lock-up corners. They're physical, too. So you could say what you want about Juju being a bigger physical receiver, but these corners are all physical, too. And they're going to beat you up. And
here's my opinion on Juju, and it depends on how they're going to use him. If they move him to the slot, and he takes 60% of his snaps from the slot, something like Christian Kirk does on an annual basis, I see him being way more successful like he was back when he was in Pittsburgh. Not obviously the numbers he put up that one season in was it 2017 or 2018 or 2019, I can't remember. But that being said, the slot is where he's going to produce for this team. It's not going to be on the outside. He doesn't create enough separation on the outside. Yeah,
but exactly. And who's on the outside there? Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker right now.
So that's what I'm saying. That's the only benefit is if they move him to the slot and send those guys to the outsides, he's going to probably be open more times than those other guys are. Because Devontae Parker has already proven in his career he is one of the worst wide receivers out there in terms of creating separation and getting separation. Like one of the worst in recorded data. So I think that's what they're going to have to do.
I think the last Patriots wide receiver that I've owned in fantasy is Brandon LaFell. That's how long it's been since I've owned a Patriots wide receiver, because I just don't, even with Edelman, the way they spread the ball out, and they don't hyper target. They're just going to play on matchup when Tom Brady was there. And then now I just don't trust it. I don't trust Mac Jones to throw for enough touchdowns to out. The pass catchers that I like there are from the tight end position. I do like Hunter Henry and I do like Mike Gesicki. If you want to take, I think every one of these wide receivers is a sleeper. That's how I would qualify them. Juju, I don't, for where he's going, sure, there's some value there because you're getting the number one in the 8th round, 9th round. Sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's value-wise, I'm happy to take him with a chance that he repeats his season last year where he's got a couple big games. Maybe he gets in the end zone a little bit more. But, I really got to see if they're going to use him more in the slot. I think it's going to be successful. If they're going to be using him on the outside, I think we see his numbers go back down again, similar to what they were the year before.
I would have liked Juju a lot more as a Patriot if Jacoby Myers was still here. But when Jacoby Myers left and Juju was signed to take over the number one, I don't trust him as a number one.
Yeah. Well, that being said, we're both agreeing that, hey, you could take a flyer on Parker or Juju. Heck, you could even go last pick in the draft on Thornton, Bourne, or Boutte, because we just don't know. Somebody's going to have to come forward. But what I will say is there's 2 guys on this team that we know have a role, and that's Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. And with Bill O'Brien's offense, we've said it before. We talked about it in past podcasts. I talked about it in shorts. Bill O'Brien brought the 2 tight end set with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski in 2011 that was so successful that you could see them doing the same thing here. And back then, Hunter Henry would be playing the Aaron Hernandez role, the run blocker and pass catcher, versus Gesicki playing more of the pass catcher first, blocker second role that Gronkowski had. And I think either one of these guys, obviously they finished tight end 20, tight end 22 respectively. They both had, touchdown capital and yardage capital. I think I would be happy taking one of these two guys if I punt the tight end position and pair him without another tight end and be happy with that, because the guys are going to have a piece of this offense. I think Gesicki is going to have probably more targets by the end of the season because of it, but I know Hunter Henry, they loved him in the red zone, and if there's an injury to any of these wide receivers like Devontae Parker or Juju or anything like that, they're just going to start passing their tight ends because it's a mismatch at that point.
Yeah, I think that you're right on it. Like if I boot the tight end position and I'm just looking to grab two, like these are always going to be my second guy that I'm going to take. Like, so I'll go and get Gerald Everett and then get one of these guys. I'll go and get Njoku and get one of these guys, and because they just use it. I will say this is that they're going to give you a lot of headaches this season because there's going to be a lot of games where it's going to be like, 2 games in a row for Gesicki, and then there's going to be 2 games in a row for Henry, and so you're going to be like, oh, these guys are on the roll, like they're getting used, and you're going to start them, and they're not going to be involved, and it's going to be the other tight end. So in that mindset, they're going to give you some headaches with it, but by end of season numbers, I think both these guys should be within the top 20.
Yeah, they're good flyers. Like again, you punt the position, they're a good flyer, and especially matchup flyer. It may be one of those ones where if you look at how the teams are doing against tight ends in terms of like the Dolphins and Patriots, or sorry, not Patriots, Dolphins and Jets and Bills,